Good evening, Trump family. Welcome to Open Source News. Have a good night, everyone, and God bless you. Alright, the following is a collection of news from Patriots. Let's get into the news this Tuesday. And we knew it would be only a matter of time before the criminal regime in Arizona led by Katie Hobbs would try to go after Kari Lake, tried to use the law enforcement there to try to arrest Kari Lake, because this is where we hadn't now. Because you're not allowed to continue to use your First Amendment to speak out against things that you know are wrong, or even to be able to call to attention that something may have happened. They cannot stand up. It's criminal regimes like Katie Hobbs and like Joe Biden cannot withstand people questioning the methods in which they were placed into office. They don't want people to dig, they don't want people to look at rules and laws were broken, and in order to ensure that they would become the elected official. So let's go and take a look what we have here. It says breaking horrible. Arizona regime is investigating Kari Lake and trying to jail her on felony charges for exercising her First Amendment and exposing the election. Yep, we knew would only be a matter of time. The newly selected regime headed up by Arizona's top statewide officials is now targeting Kari Lake with potential felony charges for speaking out against the election in Arizona. Questionably elected Arizona Secretary of State Adrian Fontes, a former lawyer for Mexican drug cartels, sent out a new letter on Monday asking questionably elected Attorney General Chris May to investigate and take appropriate enforcement against Kari Lake for sounding the alarm about the 2022 election. This comes just 2 days before the Arizona Court of Appeals is set to hold a February 1st conference in Kari Lake's lawsuit contesting the midterm election. They are terrified and will stop at nothing to cover up the truth. The Gateway Pundit reported that Chris May is recently revealed at the AG's Election Integrity Unit (EIU) is going to become a voter protection unit to fight any effort by anyone to eliminate vote by mail, and prosecute alleged voter intimidation, and alleged imitation of election officials, instead of fighting against irregularities in elections. The new regime will now target good Arizonans who want on U.S. elections. The letter from Adrian Fontes refers to a tweet from Kari Lake, which can be found below. Right down here says the photo that Lake embedded in this tweet shows redacted early ballot affidavits compare with signatures from redacted voter and registration records. This information was made public by the Arizona State Elections Commission last Monday and is being used in Kari Lake's election lawsuit, like simply shared the evidence that was presented in the Senate. You see that here. Of course, the Gateway Pundit reported on some of the shocking phonies, and last Monday's presentation which we covered here on the channel. But Fantastic Letter claims that Lake violated R. 16168, which states nothing in this section shall preclude public inspection of voter registration records at the office of the county recorder for the purposes prescribed by this section except that the month and day and birthday, the social security number or any portion thereof, the driver's license number, the non-operating identification license number, did Indian census number to father's name or mother's name, maiden name, the state or country birth, and the records containing the voter signature for a voter's email address shall not be accessible or reproduced by any other than the voter by any authorized by and by an authorized government official in the scope of the official duties for any purpose by the entity designate by the Secretary of State as a voter registration, national voter registration for signature verification on petitions, candidate filings, the election purposes. For news gathering purposes by a person engaged in a newspaper, radio, television reporter will work or connected with or employed by the newspaper, radio, television station, are pursuant to the court order notwithstanding any other law. A voter's email address may not be released for any purpose. A person who violates this subsection or subsection D of this section is guilty of a Class 6 felony. Fontes' letters asked May to take action and investigate late for felony events. So we got a lot going on here with Kari Lake. The regime is desperate to not allow the truth to come out in Arizona because they know the truth is very damning to them and to their position and to how they have conducted themselves in Arizona and how this election was conducted and how things were done in order to disenfranchise hundreds of thousands of voters on election day. Katie Hobbs knows this. This is why she sicked her dogs on Kari Lake now to try to have her arrested. Absolutely disgraceful. And just absolutely, this is what they do in third world countries. And then, this is some big news. Now for the most part, I focus on politics. I delve into cultural stuff here and there, but usually within the realm of politics, and so I haven't really fully informed myself on the whole J.K. Rowling thing, or J.K. Rowling thing. I'm not exactly sure how her name is pronounced, the Harry Potter Hogwarts lady, author of the incredible book series. There's all kinds of controversy surrounding her. Left boys are calling her at her for trans exclusionary radical feminist, and you know what, I followed it on a very surface level, specifically some of the claims that she made, I think over a year ago, so I understand the base context. Essentially, J.K. Rowling is taking a stance that men are invading female spaces. She's uncomfortable with it. She points out particular instances that she's found egregious, and at the time, I didn't really need to do too much research. I knew that I was pretty much on her side, but I didn't know just how insanely based J.K. Rowling is getting, or probably has already been, or always been, just out of curiosity and boredom. I happened to stumble on her Twitter timeline on her Twitter profile, and wow, I think the Harry Potter novel series Harry Potter movies might now be my favorite fantasy pieces ever written. In fact, I just pre-ordered Hogwarts Legacy, the new Harry Potter video game that's releasing I think in a month or so. This woman is fed up. She is no longer playing any games with these little welkies. It seems as though the TERFs are going to take down this woke clown world. We don't even have to lift a finger. The woke mob meets the final boss known as J.K. Rowling. So it seems as though in the left woke mob's efforts to cancel J.K. Rowling, to label her a trans exclusionary radical feminist, will, instead of shutting her down, they've emboldened her, and J.K. Rowling is becoming a very vocal critic of Clown World, of the Clown World, on her Twitter account. Here's some of her most recent tweets. A highly disturbed prisoner who was attacked female staff during time in prison has admitted stalking a young girl and has been one of the most menacing people inside Scottish jails. This is Tiffany Scott. Some of the responses, by the way, to this post are just ridiculous, because cis women don't attack female prison staff or stalk minors. They drink Prosecco and discuss Judith Butler. I mean, imagine the code to justify putting a fully grown male adult in a female prison and comparing that dynamic to the female on female dynamic. Ridiculous. Here's another one from a couple of days ago in Nicola Sturgeon, Scotland. Trans women aren't women if they are convicted double abusers, let's say like Adam Isla Bryson. Graham. However, trans woman and worst type of person on the planet can't say that word. Katie Dalla Toschi, who covertly filmed a minor and attempted to, the worst act that you could possibly imagine, a 10-year-old, both offenses committed in women's public bathrooms as a woman, and remains in the women's prison from which Adam Graham is to be removed. Never forget Sturgeon. Her government and supporters have insisted that it is ludicrous to imagine anyone would dress in women's clothes to get access to vulnerable women and girls. Wouldn't happen. Everyone is who they say they are. To question this is hate. The party told you to reject the evidence of your eyes and ears. It was their final, most essential command. George Orwell, 1984. I mean, hopefully based. You think I'm done? I'm not over. Rather, you think J.K. Rowling has done. She's not delighted to announce that after a surprise visit to the real world where she reluctantly admitted a hulking, great, terrible human being abuser doesn't become a woman by putting on a wig. Our illustrious leader has made it safely home to your all just bigots territory. Linking this article, Nicola Sturgeon. Some gender reform critics using women's rights to hide bigotry. Yes, of course, these legitimate concerns involving the safety of minors and young women that J.K. Rowling is promoting is just bigotry. Give me a friggin' break. But here's where it really starts to get based. At first the woke mob was attacking her, calling her a TERF, intimidating her, and she was retreating. You wouldn't hear from her for a while. She didn't want to get into the fight. She didn't want to deal with it. Well, now it's the exact opposite. After the woke mob went after her on Twitter for these 2 or these 3 tweets, take a look at this response. Everything I showed you previous was just the build-up to what I'm about to show you. Deeply amused by those telling me I have lost their admiration due to the respect that I show violent, duplicitous, terrible abusers. I shall file your last admiration carefully in the box where I keep my missing Fs. Ollie Bass, she's on a damn roll. This is what I meant in the intro. I had no idea that she was this savage. She's not playing any games with these bookstores anymore, folks. This is a cultural inflection point. I mean, they're losing their own. J.K. Rowling was never an end. We have the left. J.K. Rowling is a left-winger. She's a feminist. She recently retconned the lore of her book to make one of her characters LGBTQ, but she's public enemy number 1 from the woke mob. They're eating their own, and what they're doing is exposing themselves. If you're losing someone like J.K. Rowling, you're losing in the cultural world, in the cultural sphere. Normal people are paying attention to this stuff. They're seeing both sides, and you could tell which is the lunatic out of their mind, pitchforks and torches mob, and which person is operating with all of their faculties in check. The cultural shift is happening, folks. It takes some time, but it's happening. I just know that it is. I can feel it. Little situations like these to meet forecast the future. It's foreshadowing, you know. The more the unhinged left-wing mob creates boogeymen and women out of their supposed enemies, you know, regular people with legitimate opinions trying to do the right thing. The more people are exposed to this insanity and the more people are waking up, you know, the woke left mob is trying their damnedest to attack J.K. Rowling and to cancel her. I released a video on my second channel Clown World the other day highlighting the story. You know, everyone listen to this. Please do not support the upcoming Hogwarts Legacy game. Friends, colleagues, cohorts, the whole lot of you, and asking you very sincerely, please do not stream it. Don't make YouTube videos about it. Don't buy it, and don't bloody pre-order it. The reason being is that you may not be aware that by supporting this title, you are essentially aligning yourself with some really heinous transphobic values. J.K. Rowling, aka Joanne, has made it extremely clear that they see the success of this title as being vindication of their transphobic views. That you know, by this title doing well, that means that they were correct. And honestly, you just have to look on Steam forums to see the kind of people that sharing for this game. Please don't be among them. If you weren't aware of all this, I'll do a longer video after this to explain a bit more of the nuances, but I just had to say, please don't support this game, please. Okay folks. And what's the response in the end from the consumer? From, you know, average people. Her new video game, which the woke mob is trying to cancel, is topping the charts on PS5, Steam, and Xbox in pre-sales. That's what I meant with what I said earlier, where I just pre-ordered the game, and it's more foreshadowing to the counterbalance, the counterforce against the lunatic left-wing mob. People are sick of these woke authoritarians, and this unhinged lunatic cancel culture nonsense. You know what, right now I'm liking Harry Potter and J.K. Rowling so much that when Hogwarts Legacy releases, I might even stream the game on my YouTube channel. I don't know. Maybe we'll have to see. It's releasing on February 10th. And I'm leaving for Vietnam shortly after, so we'll have to see if I have time. But J.K. Rowling is based way more base than I thought, and I think she deserves your support for standing up against the left-wing mob. Alright, thanks for being here folks. Please receive a big hug from all of us. Let me know down below